What's going on, people? How you doing? Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. And hopefully my sound is connected. Hopefully there's no crackle. Seems to be something that's been going on. But the early chatters are in. Welcome, people. How you doing? We're live on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. Please come join me on Rockfin. I really like to see y'all on Rockfin. And my my followers on Rockfin just keep on going up, and my views on Rockfin just keep on going up. It's kind of amazing. And I thank you all for helping that happen. But what's going on, everybody? William Moy, Gene for the Biosphere, Guaumashi. For the Biosphere says a Maine activist group for the people is trying to get a people's referendum on ballot for universal health care in Maine. I believe the ballot measure will be in 2022 with full implementation by 2024. Well, that's awesome. That's great news. I hope, maybe Medicare for All can, take the road of legalized marijuana, right? Where you just do it state by state. As states start implementing Medicare for All, it becomes harder for the federal government to kind of ignore it. Maybe it just starts becoming the norm. Yeah, maybe it starts becoming the norm. And reflecting what people want, because that's really truly, that's really truly the thing, is like what people want and what people are willing to accept in their lives as doable and reality is something that is not reflected by the people in power, and certainly not reflected in the media. The media wants you to think that, everybody's worried about losing their health care, or how are we going to pay for it? That's what the media wants you to know about Medicare for All. The media wants you to know that, we've got 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years to worry about climate change. People are certainly worried about climate change, but they're certainly, nobody's thinking about completely rearranging the system we live in the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, whoa, that's just way over the edge there, right? So it's, what people know and understand and want and desire is not reflected in the systems around us, right? And that is causing a lot of discomfort, right? The word dis-ease. I'm uneasy. People feel uneasy. They feel unheard. They feel that, the things that are supposed to reflect them don't reflect them, which is kind of what I've been talking about the last couple of days, as far as maybe trying to find a common ground among people in this country, instead of trying to divide everybody and making it us against them, and they're all ignorant. No, they're stupid. No, they're stupid. No, you're stupid, and turning it into this second grade 7-year-old fight, which literally is like the mentality of Americans. Is like, I don't know. We've devolved into everybody just acting like 7-year-olds. I know you are, but when am I? Like, that's literally how people are thinking, on the right and the left. The evidence is way too overwhelming that that's how it's going. But anyways, we'll talk about that a little bit later. While Mashi says the system will rearrange itself without our help. Well, Andy the Gardener says, I don't understand how universal healthcare helps other species. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, I mean, seen from the lens of climate change or the biosphere, um, and that kind of just goes into a really like a deeper conversation that I probably don't have time for right now. Seen from that lens, yeah, it doesn't help other species, sure. But the thing is that I am capable. I hope other people are capable of thinking about multiple issues at once. This is not a slight to you, Andy the Gardener. I'm just, I am focused on climate change on this channel, but I'm also focused on, I guess, ideas that are just logical ideas as far as, uh, trying to make the world just a little bit more compassionate. And, yeah, I understand Medicare for all is very human centric, sure. But, I'd prefer that humans act better towards each other than worse. I don't know. It's a difficult thing because I'm still, I'm a humanitarian, and I'm also, I see the problems with humanitarianism. I don't know. Maybe the planet would be much more happy if we all just were much more brutal to each other, and just if we went back to some former way of living where everybody just hacked each other to bits whenever they were upset, or whenever they wanted something somebody else had. I'm just gonna come over and hack you to bits. How about that? Maybe that's maybe the biosphere would be more happy if humans live that way. I don't know. And the Gardener says, I'm just focused. Only a truly misanthropic viewpoint is consistent. All right. I mean, I'm covering a lot of different, subjects. Climate change is not the only one. It is a main focus, but it's not the only subject. And so, I'm zooming in, I'm zooming out, we're going all over the place. A lot of people really are concerned about having healthcare. And I believe, Andy the Gardener, you live somewhere where people have universal healthcare, so there's that. You live somewhere where you can get help if you're sick, and you won't go broke if you are sick. It's kind of an issue for people that don't have it. Right? Am I right? Am I right? Am I right about that, Andy the Gardener? You have health care. Kiro Hikes, I'm just about making the fall of man a little easier on the small guys. Because either way, we're all going to die. No need to die under a bridge when you can die in your hut. Yeah, and Guamashi, good point. Right, Medicare for all, would actually be a cheaper way to go, and would, just would be way less wasteful and harmful to people. Anyways, let's get into it. Let me say hi to my Rockfinners real quick. Rockfinners, what's going on? Poppy Davis, Ryan Gorman, Snake 1974, Urban Hermit, Jacob Gordon. What's up, guys? Thanks for hanging out with me on Rockfin. I'll check in with you in a second. Oh, Lordy. Oh, Lordy. So PFD tweeted this at me today. It says a doomer is born. Greta Thunberg says, live from One Planet Summit, hashtag One Planet Summit in Paris. Blah, blah, nature, blah, blah, important, blah, blah, ambitious, blah, blah, green investments, blah, blah, green opportunity, blah, blah, green growth, blah, blah, net zero, blah, blah, step up our game, blah, blah, hope, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty funny. Pretty funny. Locking in decades of further destruction. And she actually is retweeting live at the One Planet Summit. France is mobilizing political and business leaders from across the world to act against the erosion of biodiversity. There's no planet B. Go Green says, glad to see you're thinking more and more like some of us. They are all addicted to growth and development. Degrowth is the only answer to climate and biodiversity collapse, to live within nature's limits. Yes. I countered. She's been a doomer. I don't know where people have been. Not to say that she hasn't been somebody who has proposed solutions or proposed that we do better. I think you can still be in acknowledgement that the we're in a bad place, the biosphere. You can acknowledge that and still think like, well, maybe we should do a little better. But she, it's been, I don't know. I've been really kind of watching Greta, fairly closely. We've been watching her on this channel for the last, at least couple years. And pretty much everything she says is fairly doomerish. It's fairly like anti-green growth, come on everybody, we can, if we only just. On top of, she's walking the walk and talking the talk. And so, I don't see the, she has been consistent. She has been consistent in her message. And if you don't notice that, maybe you haven't been paying attention. I've been paying attention. I'm not making it up. Andy the Gardener, how can you be pro degrowth and pro universal health care? They're mutually incompatible. No, I disagree. I think you can give people health care and have, I think you can care for people, right? Like, so in my mind, like if we were to take a degrowth path, immediately you could give people income, food, health care, shelter, and still kind of do away with corporations and consumer, like a consumerist society. Like if we went to if we're in an emergency, if we actually, agreed that it was an emergency and we're going to save the planet, right? We're going to do it the way we decided the coronavirus was an emergency and we're all going to work together to solve this emergency. You would lock a lot of things down and you would say, well, we're only going to do the essential things. While whilst we figure out what else we're going to do going forward. But you can give people health care. You can give people just some basic health care while still degrowing, really cancerous parts of your economy. I don't think they're incompatible at all. Wow, Mashi. Universal health care includes birth control and abortions. Ba-ding dang. Exactly. Right? Giving people, and I would go take that, I would say included in your universal health care, not just birth control and abortions, but information about how, having more children impacts the climate, right? That would just be, Greta never says anything specific like ban cars now. I don't know. She doesn't fly. She says, let's stop flying. I disagree with that. I think she said something like that. But basic health care, yes, I agree. But industrial style health care as per NHS, no. I mean, I don't know. I think we're getting into some. I think we're getting into quibbling over specifics. But I get what you're saying, Andy. I get what you're saying. The NHS must have a carbon footprint getting on to the U. Yeah, but it's not. I mean, sure, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Rich Diana says, Kevin, don't agree with your math. You don't agree with my math? Okay. Basil Peterson, I took a shower today. I'm rich. There you go. There you go. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's keep going. We can we've got more time to debate. I just got to get into covering some information here. So she was referring to this One Earth Summit. 50 countries. So this is from Brian McHugh. 50 countries commit to protection of 30% of Earth's land and oceans. It's not enough, but it's something. 50 countries commit to 30% of Earth's land and what does this mean? What does it mean? I see that people are starting to put born at whatever parts per million CO2 in their Twitter bios. It's interesting. I was born at this parts per million. That's interesting trend. Anyways, let's get into this. Sorry, I already had it open. From The Guardian and from today. The coalition says promise is key to preventing mass extinctions and ensuring clean air and water. A coalition of more than 50 countries has committed to protect almost a third of the planet by 2030. They're going to protect a third of the planet by 2030 to halt the destruction of the natural world and slow extinctions of wildlife. All right, the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, which includes the UK and countries from 6 continents, made the pledge to protect at least 30% of the planet's land and oceans before the One Planet Summit in Paris. I'm sorry, did I say One Earth Summit? One Planet Summit in Paris on Monday, hosted by the French President Emmanuel Macron. Scientists have said human activities are driving the 6th mass extinction of life on Earth, and agricultural production, mining, and pollution are threatening the healthy functioning of life-sustaining ecosystems crucial to human civilization. In the announcement, the HAC said protecting at least 30% of the planet for nature by the end of the decade was crucial to preventing mass extinctions of plants and animals and ensuring the natural production of clean air and water. The commitment is likely to be the headline target of the Paris Agreement for Nature that will be negotiated at COP15 in Kunming, China later this year. The HAC said it hoped early commitments from countries such as Colombia, Costa Rica, Nigeria, Pakistan, Japan, and Canada would ensure it formed the basis of the UN agreement. Elizabeth Marema, the executive secretary of the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, welcomed the pledge but cautioned it is one thing to commit, but quite different to deliver. But when we have committed, we must deliver, and with concerted efforts, we can collectively deliver. Okay. The announcement of the One Planet Summit, which also saw pledges to invest billions of pounds in the Great Green Wall in Africa, and the launch of a new sustainable, I think that's like a regenerative agriculture project, the Great Green Wall, and the launch of a new sustainable finance charter called the Terra Carta, interesting, by Prince Charles, was met with skepticism from some campaigners. Greta Thunberg tweeted, live from One Planet Summit in Paris, blah, blah, nature, blah, blah, important, blah, blah, ambitious. As part of the HAC announcement, the UK Environment Minister Zach Goldsmith said, "We know there is no pathway to tackling climate change that does not involve a massive increase in our efforts to protect and restore nature." So as co-host of the next climate COP, the UK is absolutely committed to leading the global fight against biodiversity loss, and we are proud to act as co-chair of the High Ambition Coalition. Alrighty, we have an enormous opportunity at this year's Biodiversity Conference in China to forge an agreement to protect at least 30% of the world's land and ocean by 2030. I am hopeful our joint ambition will curb the global decline of the natural environment so vital to the survival of our planet. However, despite support for the target from several countries, many indigenous activists have said that increasing protected areas for nature could result in land grabs and human rights violations. Okay. The announcement may also concern some developing countries who are keen for ambitious commitments on finance and sustainable development as part of the Kunming Agreement, not just conservation. Interesting. Some developing countries are keen for ambitious commitments on finance and sustainable development. Sustainable development, okay. Unlike its climate equivalent, the UN Convention on Biological Diversity covers 3 issues: the sustainable use of nature, sharing benefits from genetic resources, and conservation. The 3 pillars of the treaty can clash with each other, and richer developed countries have been accused of focusing too much on conservation while ignoring difficult choices on agriculture and providing finance for poorer nations to meet targets. I still haven't seen anything about lowering footprints or lowering consumerism or degrowing. I haven't seen not one word about degrowth. Degrowth is a bad word. In any of these articles or any of these conferences or any of the, nobody will ever utter the word degrowth. I wonder why. Over the last decade, degrade, yes, the world has failed to meet a single target to stem the destruction of wildlife and life-sustaining ecosystems. Over the last decade, or degrade, the world has failed to meet a single target to stem the destruction of wildlife and life-sustaining ecosystems. On Monday, leaders from around the world met in person and virtually at the One Planet Summit to discuss the biodiversity crisis. Right. Boris Johnson says, "We are destroying species and habitat at an absolutely unconscionable rate." Well, at least he's aware of all the mammals in the world. I think I am right in saying that 96% of mammals are now human being or livestock that human beings rely on. Wow, he's check out Boris Johnson being up on game, on the biodiversity game. Wow. Who knew? Sounds exactly like Trump. Not at all. However, good words don't necessarily mean good actions. That is, in my view, a disaster. That's why the UK has pledged to protect 30% of our land surface and marine surface. Of the 11.6 billion that we've consecrated to climate finance initiatives, we are putting 3 billion pounds into protecting nature. Okay. Increasing okay, now they're just talking about money. All right, whatever. All right. Does this have anything to do with anything about saving the planet? I mean, obviously it does, but do you Keith Hayes says Boris Johnson is a smart Trump. Okay. Well, Boris Johnson got coronavirus and seemed to be shaken by it. and seem to be shaken awake. Like, oh yeah, oh it's actually pretty. Maybe we should take this seriously. Uh, Judy Truitt, you make a plan for your life and then life intervenes. My observation: 5 or 10 year plans are useless. I now tell my son, you have no idea what's going to happen in the future. It's fair. Fair. Ross Cobbin says that so he doesn't feel guilty at his next champagne and caviar reception. So, yeah, all right. So the thing that I took away from that, and I guess the thing that Greta Thunberg is alluding to in her tweet, there was nothing in there about degrowth. There was nothing in there about, the destruction that our economies do. Personally, I think it's a good, it's a positive, right? Okay, let's commit ourselves to saving this environment. But what about the root of the problem? They never really, they keep talking about things that are out here, over here. We're going to save biodiversity. We're going to go over here and save some habitat. And we're going to go over here and save some, but they never actually look at the root cause of the loss of the biodiversity, which is our industrial civilization just chewing everything to bits. Right? We're just chewing everything to bits. And, the money is God, growth is God. More and more and more of everything, of economy, of people, of industry, of technology, of, more, going forward, always going forward, more. All of that is the thing that is destroying biodiversity and destroying habitat and destroying nature and destroying wildlife, right? All of that is what's at the root cause of it. So they didn't actually look at that. They didn't get into that. They didn't talk about that. They didn't, what's the root? What's actually causing all this destruction? No, they just were like, well, we're going to put a whole bunch of money in over here and we're going to save some wildlife over here. But what about what humans are doing to do that? I don't know. Wow, mashing, what does that mean? Andy the Gardener says, Boris is a typical European neoliberalist. Don't believe a word the bugger says. Generally tend not to. Guao Mashi says, think for yourself is the world's largest terrorist group. I'm going to have to say I agree with that. Sultan Bev says, when they talk about carbon net zero, we didn't realize they were talking about the wildlife. I Am Sweetleaf says, the root is market. We buy it, it will be extracted for us. Good. Yes. Exactly. We really have to change the way it's not changing, and if they ever mention changing, they're like, we have to change the way we do business, or we have to change our economic models, or we have to change our whatever, the way our systems run. They don't actually ever talk about the idea that we have to change, the basic system itself, right? Maybe our entire economic model is wrong. Maybe the economy itself is wrong. Maybe our ideas about what's normal is wrong. Maybe, Boris the Spider, nice. Caleb Rochester, good one. Yeah, they never address the root. They don't address the root. They're pledging money to fix this problem, but maybe they're not addressing the idea that money is itself the problem. So yeah, there's a lot to be desired from that discussion, and I'm gonna have to agree with Greta Thunberg. It's a nice words, a lot of nice words, a lot of nice. Here we go. We're gonna do it. We're committing, and we're gonna. Yes, this is really important. Blah blah important, right? Super important. But what is it? What is it we're going to actually do? What's actually going to get done? And how are we going to do things realistically address the problem without addressing our own part? What is our part in the problem? Our part in the problem. Anyways, let's move on to this. The Arctic Ocean could be free of ice within 15 years. This is from one of the many Extinction Rebellion Twitters. There are so many, but there's a main one. I don't think this is the main one. Or is it? Maybe it is. Maybe it is the main one. Hold on. Oh, I guess it is. My bad. This is from Extinction Rebellion. The Arctic Ocean could be free of ice within 15 years. This would vastly increase the speed of planetary heating. Oh, thanks, Extinction Rebellion. Oh, and they're following me. That's good. Past evidence supports complete loss of sea ice by 2035. I think we just read something very much like this. Just a couple days ago. A new study published in this week, this is in August 2020, in the journal Nature Climate Change supports predictions that the Arctic could be free of ice by 2035. Oh no, I think we read something that it could be in the next 5 years. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm confusing it with all the other articles. High temperatures in the Arctic during the last interglacial. The warm period around 127,000 years ago have puzzled scientists for decades now. Puzzled. Now the puzzled scientists. Now the UK Met Office's Hadley Centre climate model has enabled an international team of researchers to compare Arctic sea ice conditions during the last interglacial. With present day, their findings are important for improving predictions of future sea ice change. During spring and early summer, shallow pools of water form on the surface of the Arctic sea ice. These melt ponds are important for how much sunlight is absorbed by the ice and how much is reflected back into space. The new Hadley Centre model is the UK's most advanced physical representation of the Earth's climate and a critical tool for climate research and incorporates sea ice and melt ponds. And the upshot of all of this is using the model to look at Arctic sea ice during the last interglacial. The team concludes that the impact of intense springtime sunshine created many melt ponds, which played a crucial role in sea ice melt. A simulation of the future using the same model indicates that the Arctic may become sea ice free. Is that year round? The Arctic may become sea ice free by 2035. Is that all year round? 2035 means when we're done with ice? All done with ice? Possibly. Forcing Climate Info says I bet on 4 to 5 years. Is that to BOE or to total lack of sea ice, like period? I don't know. I'm kind of the mind, or I kind of agree with the idea that once we get to, a few people have said once we get to blue ocean, that the ice isn't really coming back, right? We might, once we get the blue ocean event, we might get a little bit of, crystals forming here and there during the winter, but basically it's just, we're done. Jacob Gordon says, no, it cannot be that soon. A short time without ice late in the summer is realistic. Forcing climate info. This is after BOE event. We may have 2 to 3 plastic years to live. Realize says the upshot, we will have a nice swimming area at the top of the world. Woohoo. Oh, Keith Hayes has joined us on Rockfin. What's up, Keith Hayes? Thank you for hanging out. On the Rockfin, Sweetleaf is on the Rockfin. Okay, let's move on. But thank you guys for being here, hanging out with me on Rockfin. So, yeah, look, the thing is that, I really just want to increase understanding on this channel, or taking in of information, not rejecting of information. And I think that we all see that rejection of information being the problem. Hold on one second. I want to read something. Oh, well, Kevin Shanholzer had a question for me. He said, regarding your statement yesterday about the age of viewers on Black Bear News, is this because of language or content? I'm asking because I have a 16-year-old daughter and have thought a lot about telling her what's going on. I haven't given her the full scoop, but I've dropped a few lines about symptoms, such as polluted air causing stunted and weakened trees. She's taking a class next year called Climate, Ocean, Weather, Space Science, or COWS. She is interested in the topic, but these days I think there is no point in telling her everything. I haven't discussed it with her mother. We're divorced. Her mother, I would call skeptical of the dire situation only due to being oblivious. I think you have a child. If so, do you discuss it, climate bioannihilation with him or her? I have 2 children, a boy and a girl. A son who is college age, and my daughter is elementary school age. I don't really discuss it with them, to be honest. And I do, it's kind of one of those things. I feel like there's a heavy conversation, and it's a heavy subject, and I don't think you should traumatize people unnecessarily. When people get to be more grown, when they're a more adult age, I think it's, a little more acceptable to broach the subject, but some people some people want to remain in their own psychological space about it, right? So I'm just not really into traumatizing people. If I can, I try to broach the subject sometimes with people, but I also am just open to people figuring it out for themselves. I speak about it where and when I can. I live my life in a way that reflects my understanding of the situation, or I try to. So, by those measures, or by that measure, I am a symbol of somebody, I think, who understands the situation, and I'm willing to, talk about it and be truthful about it. But as far as my children, I'm willing to kind of wait until they are more curious about it. And I'm actually positive that just like the rest of the population of the planet, people understand it way more than we know, way more than we think they do, right? People are keeping their understanding of the situation internal. People internally totally understand the situation, and they're just glossing over it. They're compartmentalizing whatever it is they're doing, however it is that they're handling it. That's how they're handling it. But the understanding of the situation is way more widespread than we understand. It's just that people are either in denial about it, or they're just processing it the way that they can process it, the best way that they can process it. Yeah. But, I think you have to keep on making people aware of the situation as best you can. Kiro Hike says, my mom says Joe Biden is going to save the planet. Fucking boomer. Yeah, that's a fucking boomer move. That is a boomer move. Yeah, and the thing is people are only really capable of taking in so much information, right? As soon as you start, it's just true. Like, some people are capable of taking in very complicated ideas around something like climate change, or they're only capable of taking in the cliff notes, right? So, people get the cliff notes about the climate change situation. Oh, the planet is warming. We're losing some sea ice. This is really bad. But, if we do something in the next 10 or 20 years or get to net zero by 2050, we may have a shot. Or we just change over, right? Like, that's the cliff notes that everybody gets from the mainstream media or the social media. And that's all that they are really capable of taking in around it, To get into all the really deep information that you might get from Guy McPherson or Roger Hallam or Paul Beckwith or Kevin Anderson or someone else, to get into the deep information about it, that's only available to people who are willing to make themselves available to the information, right? So, Andy the Gardener, don't underestimate the CFM majority. Don't underestimate the actuality. Don't underestimate reality, Andy the Gardener. Reality is a mother, right? And people see reality even if they don't act like they're responding to it. They see it. They see it. Hunter C says we have the skill to ruin someone's day. Yes. Right. And, a lot of my family understands the severity of the climate change situation. But, do people want to sit around and talk about it? Not really. Do people really want to go deep on the info? Not really. Declare war on melting ice. Operation Arctic refreezing. I'd say that's more of a realistic response. That response is probably in line with what will transpire, what is actually going to happen in the face of climate change, rather than people agreeing to all degrow our way of living. I wouldn't doubt that you're going to see big old boats and nuclear submarines and going up to the Arctic, and we're gonna shoot some chemicals that are gonna instantly refreeze the ice, and that's what we're gonna do. Operation Refreeze the Arctic. That I wouldn't doubt that we see that happening in the next 10 years. Anyways, yeah, so Kevin has another question I'm going to answer. Nancy Pelosi is proceeding with the 25th Amendment proceedings. I know that Nancy is aware of the climate crisis. Do you think it's possible she's simply doing what an eco-fascist would do and using all possible means to oust the climate destructor Trump? He is, after all, continuing to allow the EPA to change policies, conduct contracts, that are destructive to the planet. If I were Nancy, I think I would be doing the same thing. Fair enough. Get rid of Trump no matter how. Of course, Biden is almost as bad. Well, that's the thing is like, yeah, I mean, you know, give in that context, like, well, if her intentions were about the planet, that would be great. It doesn't matter, you know, because it's the same thing. It does matter because her intentions are not those intentions. Her intentions are not the intentions of saving the planet. Biden is not going to save the planet. Her intentions are more about the power grab or the power play, right? It's more about like, you know, people are like muscling up. Trump, really, if you want to see this as just a power play, Trump was like, no, I'm not leaving. No, this election was fraudulent. I'm going to have all my people come here. You know, we're just assuming, we're taking everything at face value right now. We're all my people are going to come here and we're all going to, show of might or show of force or show of support at the Capitol for my side. And the other side is like, oh, we're gonna take you out of office. We're gonna do like this. We're gonna pass laws. We're gonna declare domestic terrorism. We're gonna it's all like we're gonna muscle up. So all it is a power play. To me, I don't think it has nothing to do. If it was about the environment, if she was like, we got to get Trump out, I mean, that would be a really great excuse. If she was like, we're going to make this all about the environment, I would say I'd be much more supportive of her. But she doesn't give two shits about the environment. Not two shits. She was the one that said, your Green New Deal or whatever, your Green New Dream or whatever. She was like she's a complete capitalist, industrialist. So Redneckonomics. Hey, y'all. What's going on? Redneckonomics. How you doing? Welcome. Yeah, Jacob Gordon, the powers that be save the planet. Nah, we're not about that life. Yeah, there's just not. Not. Yes. Also, yes, forcing climate into Biden equals war. Just wait and see. Yes, I agree with you. Wait until Biden gets in office. See how quickly we restart the Afghanistan experience, the Syrian experience. Wait until we find a reason to go into Iran or Venezuela. I'm telling you, Venezuela, Iran, or some country is going to be boots on the ground real quick. Anyways, just getting into some political stuff quickly before the end of this video, guys. Parler has been taken offline, period. Dun, dun, dun. Parler is gone. Parler CEO John Matsey says that the site will likely be down longer than expected as more vendors drop following Apple, Google, and Amazon. He says other companies with enough server space to host the site have also shut their doors, quote unquote. So look, I don't even have Parler. I don't know much about it. And some other people are on it. I think maybe Curo's on Parler. Did I show you this? Anyways. It's supposed to be a site where, free speech is allowed or things are not censored. My basic understanding of it. And so everybody is like, oh my God, we can't have this because racism or something. And maybe there are racists on there, I'm sure, but whatever. I still feel like this is not a good look because as I have said 300 billion times, when you start shutting down someone over here for saying something, you actually are shutting down someone that looks and sounds a lot like you, eventually. Fiorella retweeting this. I hope to God people finally wake up and realize we aren't in a two-sided war, because while we fight each other, there are those in power who have been making total destruction of our nation and civil liberties. Somebody says, pretty sure the entire point of Q has been to discourage people from discussing anything along these lines. So this person never has actually paid attention to any Q people, because that's actually wrong. It's actually wrong. This is exactly what Q people talk about all the time. So if you don't actually know what you're talking about, you shouldn't open your mouth. You shouldn't, if you only get your information from a third-hand information, or from a third party that's insisting on telling you something wrong about the thing that you're curious about, then you wouldn't know what you're talking about. But golly gee willikers. Which is kind of what I've been trying to talk about, guys, in the last few days. I know maybe people are confused about the thing that I've been trying to say when I've been covering what went on at the Capitol, and the upshot of what went on at the Capitol the other day. But let me condense the thing that I'm trying to say. What I'm talking about, well, I'm trying to get people to think about what is happening. What I'm talking about here is the inability to think. I'm going to actually, give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to read something first before I read this. So we're going to go read another tweet. This is from Keno Neal. I can't fuck with people who hate Trump so much that they lose critical thinking skills. FYI, white peers. You have no moral high ground because you voted for Biden, and by overlooking his heinous crimes against people of color, it's an insult to claim you support us. Keno is a black man. By the way, Biden's policies created Trump. Moving on to this, I want to read this article, guys. This is really important information. I want you to just try and take this in. This is from frontpagemag.com. It's called The Great Unreason of 2020, The Curious but Quite Authentic Inability to Think. Remembering Hannah Arendt. Upon the Nazis' rise to power, Hannah Arendt, a Jewish woman who would go on to become a considerable 20th century philosopher, had to flee with her family from her native Germany. Once the war was over and some prominent Nazis were brought to justice, Arendt attended the trial in Jerusalem of Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust. The experience left an indelible impression upon her, one that would shape the trajectory of her philosophical thinking. What she observed was that, much to her surprise, Eichmann wasn't the incarnation of evil that she expected to encounter. His actions were monstrous, yes, but he was remarkably ordinary, or banal, if you will, to use Arendt's term of choice. What struck Arendt was Eichmann's curious but authentic inability to think. However monstrous the deeds were, the doer was neither monstrous nor demonic, and the only specific characteristic one could detect in his past, as well as in his behavior during the trial and the preceding police examination, was something entirely negative. It was not stupidity, but a curious, quite authentic inability to think. Eichmann didn't subscribe to any theory or doctrine, exhibited no particularity of wickedness, pathology, or ideological conviction. His only personal distinction was a perhaps extraordinary shallowness. Note, Arendt did not intend her characterization to be interpreted as a commentary upon Eichmann's IQ, nor, for that matter, did she mean to suggest that he was literally incapable of thinking critically. Rather, her point was that Eichmann showed no will to think beyond the cliches, the memes, bumper sticker slogans, and hashtags of his day. Because of his reliance upon cliches, stock phrases, and conventional standardized codes of expression and conduct, all of which have the socially recognized function of protecting us against reality, against the claim on our own thinking attention, which all events and facts arouse by virtue of their existence, numerous inconsistencies and flagrant contradictions littered Eichmann's testimony in court. Flagrant contradictions. Think about that. Yet he showed no signs of being in the least bothered by them. Upon her experience with Eichmann, Arendt began to revisit an ancient thesis, one taken for granted by earlier generations of philosophers, that between the will to think and moral character there is an inseparable connection. Is evil doing not just the sins of omission, but the sins of commission, possible in the absence of not merely base motives, as the law calls it, but any motives at all, any particular prompting of interest or volition, is wickedness, however we may define it, this being determined to prove a villain, not a necessary condition for evil doing. I know this is very, very wordy. Continuing, Arendt writes, could the activity of thinking as such, the habit of examining and reflecting upon whatever happens to come to pass, regardless of specific content and quite independent of results, could this activity be of such a nature that it conditions men against evil doing? Is it crucial for the reader to recognize that the phenomenon that she witnessed in Eichmann, she knew was one that is endemic to human beings generally, right? In other words, Arendt knew that there was nothing unique at all about Eichmann. He was just like most people. Quite the contrary, he was ordinary, all too ordinary, to paraphrase Nietzsche. But this was the problem as we reflect upon the readiness with which most of America, to say nothing of that many more millions in countries throughout the world, including the Western world, have acquiesced in what amounts to a sort of internment that has been imposed by their governments upon them in the name of keeping them safe from getting sick. It is imperative that we familiarize ourselves with Arendt's insights, for there can be no question that the curious but quite authentic inability to think that first grasped her attention in Eichmann is as ubiquitous and glaring today in our midst as it has ever been. Are you all following me? It can and already has led to incalculable pain and suffering. It is no stretch to call these evils. Consider all that has occurred over the last 6 or 7 weeks or so, since the dawn of the great unreason. 30 million Americans have been forced into the ranks of the unemployed by government fiat. 2, hundreds of thousands of small business owners, upon being forced by the same governmental decrees to close their doors, have been divested of their livelihoods, robbed of the blood, sweat, and tears that they spent years investing in pursuit of their versions of the American dream. 3, the constitutional rights and liberties that define America as the unique nation that it is, and for which generations of Americans have sacrificed their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, have been indefinitely revoked by politicians who pledge to protect them. 4, all of those associations, the myriad of communities that comprised, as they do the whole of civil society, constitute our very identities as the unique human beings that we are, those relationships that transfigure us from the atomistic individuals of liberal political theory, and the two-legged animals of Darwinian biology into persons and citizens. These have been substantially eroded by social distancing. 5, people with serious, potentially terminal medical conditions in need of life-saving treatments have been either denied this treatment by hospitals that have cleared the way for COVID patients, or they have been discouraged from seeking out that treatment by merchants of fear in positions of power. 6, domestic violence has increased substantially. 7, Suicides are undoubtedly on the rise, though exact numbers are not yet forthcoming, but news of suicide linked to the COVID-19 crisis have swept the globe since late March and sadly show no signs of abating. These suicides, incidentally, are caused by the panic stoked by a fear-mongering media, as well as by the dread of the isolation produced by what Doctors Fauci and Birx and their supporters euphemistically called mitigation. 8, depression, anxiety, dejection, despondency, loneliness, all have been observed to have spiked in the UK and the US. The wearings of facial coverings in public, by definition, are responsible for reinforcing alienation, distrust, and fear. Characteristics that do not a civilization make. Okay, anyways. So I basically wanted to read this for the beginning section of this. I'm not going to read the whole article. She's mostly tying this to the coronavirus and the response to coronavirus. But I want to tie it to unrest, dissatisfaction, and division in our society due to an inability to think on both sides, right? I'm tying this inability to think to the response to people, of the March on the Capitol and what's going on, between the factions of Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Trumpers, etc. This insistence on painting everything as us versus them, and I want to get back to the crux of the matter, which is this tweet from Kimber Maddox. I hope to God people finally wake up and realize we aren't in a two-sided war. And the insistence on people to think that this is all about a two-sided war, that it's us against them, they're all stupid. As Russell Brand had a really great video about the response to what happened at the Capitol, and he's like, there's a lot of people that just want to think Trump is crazy and all his followers are ignorant. That's that. He was like, I'm not satisfied with that answer. I'm not satisfied with that answer either. And the things that I've been showing you over the last couple of days is to get you to realize that we have more in common than we have differences, right? So you think they're trying to get you to think all of this is about racism and white power and white nationalism and Nazis, and they're all Trumpers are just lunatics and insane and they're stupid. But when I played you the clips of people talking, when I showed you the language that people were using about what's, the language of the Trumpers or the language of the people on that side of the aisle, they're not saying racist shit. They're not saying white power. They're not saying Zig Heil. They're saying the fucking people in power aren't listening to us. They're not responding to our needs. They're not listening to our needs and our desires and our wants. They're not reflecting the American people, right? They're not reflecting the fact that people know that they want health care. They're not reflecting the fact that people know that climate change is a real issue and we should take it seriously. They're not reflecting the fact that before the pandemic, half of Americans were $400 away, from bankruptcy. They were a major emergency away from bankruptcy. Maybe that emergency might be a medical emergency. Not reflecting, the leaders, the people in power are not reflecting the concerns and the distress of the American people. And now that we have this pandemic, all of a sudden those concerns, that distress has skyrocketed, right? They're telling everybody to lock down, and they're, didn't pass a stimulus bill, and they were arguing, like, why don't we give people $2,000? And Nancy Pelosi was like, fuck no. And then Mitch McConnell said, fuck no. And then Joe Manchin is saying, fuck no. The entirety of the government is saying, fuck no, fuck your $2,000, and fuck you. That's if you want to look at what's happening with Trumpers, it's that. It's the same fucking thing that people are talking about on the left. You are not reflecting the needs, the desires, and the wants of the American people. You are leaving us out to dry. You are letting us go into evictions and bankruptcy. You are letting us go into joblessness and homelessness and medical bankruptcy. You are letting us, you are completely disassociated with the distress of the American people. That is what is at the root of all of this. What I'm talking about here and people, there are people that get in my comment section, Trump is just full of hate. Oh, so that's, a good reason for you to just be full of hate. Oh, I'm just going to be full of hate now. Oh, it's just okay for me to hate now. Oh, I'm just going to put memes up every day. Fuck Trump, fuck Trump, fuck Trump, fuck Trumpers. I'm going to, disassociate myself from my family members because they support Trump. Oh, he's full of hate, so it's totally cool for us to be hate-filled now. Do you see the fucking 7-year-old mentality of that? You're not going high. You're not raising your vibration. You're not raising your consciousness. You're not raising your awareness. You're not stopping and thinking about what it is. You're not allowing yourself to, reach out to the other side and say, what is it that these people are really concerned about? What is it that are driving these people to support Trump, a seemingly ridiculous, insane person? Why are these people following Trump? Is it because they think that he might, for a moment there, that he might have been the one that could have reflected their distress, their disempowerment, the disengagement from the government with the needs of the society? Is it because of that? Possibly? No, I don't want to understand that. I don't want to understand that. Fuck Trump. Let me just get back into my cliches and my bumper stickers and my hashtags, because fuck Trump. He's just a racist, and that's it. Who is this, but meanwhile, all these people that say that and do that and act like that want to call the other side stupid. If you want to really get into the irony of that. What I'm talking about here is the inability to think. It's not exceptional. Why not go beyond the headlines and the slogans? What I and so many other pundits and thinkers are telling you is the root of the problem is the inability of the system to respond to the needs of the people. The inability of the media to tell people the truth is cancer, not racism or neo-Nazism. They are the result of the cancer, right? Racism, neo-Nazism, whatever you want to call it. The result of the cancer. These are the same things Chris Hedges and Noam Chomsky and Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald have been saying for years. I'm not saying anything different. I've been showing you clips and conversations from Trumpers relaying just that kind of dissatisfaction with the system, but never once did they say anything racist, right? What did the kid was saying, they don't represent us. Not Democrats, not Republicans, not independents. They don't represent us. Is that just a dissatisfaction with the whole system? Did that kid say anything racist? No, he didn't. The media wants you to believe that the media wants you to believe that so they can pit you against each other, so they can whip you into a frenzy of hate. Imagine the gall of spewing the party line about how Trump is so hate-filled, but all I see on social media is fuck Trump, fuck those people, cancel them all. Wow, how loving, how high vibrational, how understanding of you. Instead of actually trying to figure out why is this happening, you'd rather retweet a fuck Trump meme and call it a day, because anti-intellectualism runs deep in this country, and it's just as prevalent on the left as it is on the right. I'm straight up serious. There's so many lefties and Democrats out there that are super no, I don't want to think about it. Super anti-intellectuals. No, I don't want any more information. I know what I think. I don't want any more information. The left wallows in it. So might I kindly suggest that you remove your head from your ass and start thinking. Try it. It might lead to some type of understanding that can start uniting us instead of dividing. Thanks. And that is all I have to say on that. But yeah. Y'all think it's all about hate. It's not about hate. But you're so sure that it's about hate that you're willing to, well, it's time for me to get my hate on. Whoa. Hey, is it my turn to be racist and sexist? Is it my turn to be hateful? Because, I mean, they're hateful, so I can be hateful. Like, again, second grade thinking. Like, literally, your IQ is like 60. Well, they're mean. They're mean, and they're saying bad things, so we're going to, fuck them. Okay, alrighty. I thought you were supposed to be the smart ones. Anyways, guys, that's it. That's all I have to say today. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I'll be back tomorrow at the regular time of 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until next time, peace. Oh, I got a super chat in here. Hold on. Oz LaFave. Thank you for the super chat. Excellent point, Kevin. We have been getting F no for 4 decades. For 4 decades from the party of the wealthy. We have been conned by controlled opposition. Exactly. Oz LaFave, you are saying everything I'm saying. Thank you. Do you think that maybe people are dissatisfied on the right and the left? It's, they've just chosen sides, but they are all experiencing the same dissatisfaction and discontent. So maybe why not try to reach out and understand them and where they're coming from instead of hating them? And you probably might get the same thing back. That's just all I'm suggesting. All right, guys. Peace out.